listening to the Retail Razor Show, where your expert hosts and their guests cut through the clutter in retail and retail tech to shape the future of retail.
Hello, Retail Razor Show listeners. Welcome to a special Season 1 bonus episode, our two-part ShopTalk 2022 recap episode. I'm your host, Ricardo Belmar, a RETHINK Retail top retail influencer and lead partner marketing advisor for retail and consumer goods at Microsoft.
And I'm your co-host, Casey Golden, CEO of LuxLock, obsessed with the relationship between a brand and a consumer. I've spent my career on the fashion side of the business and moved over to supply chain technology, slaying Frankenstacks.
So once again, we have changed things up a bit and interrupted our regularly scheduled episode to bring you our thoughts on what we saw, what we learned, and what surprised us about last week's ShopTalk event in Las Vegas.
Everyone is reinvigorated to be working in retail, so let's head to the floor.
All right, let's give a listen to part one, which we recorded live about a day and a half into the show. Hey everybody, welcome to Retail Razor Show live from ShopTalk 2022. This is a special live version on Callin. I'm here with my co-host Casey Golden.
Hello, everyone.
And it is a pleasure to be coming to you live from the show. This is a new thing for us on the Retail Razor, isn't it, Casey?
It is. And it's a new thing for the record attendance increase at ShopTalk as well. It's standing room only at retail's biggest reunion.
Yeah, I've heard everybody calling it that, retail's biggest reunion. I think the numbers I've heard of up to 10,000 people maybe.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, I think we actually got New York together again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I can't go down a hallway every time I take 10 steps down the hallway and suddenly there's somebody looking back at me thinking, hey, wait, do we know each other?
Yeah.
We know each other? We haven't met in the last 2 years, but it feels like we know each other.
You know, I have to say, I'm really glad that we got our LinkedIn pictures that we're just trying to place. But then when everyone started switching their Twitter photos to NFTs, I'm like, I don't remember what you look like.
What you look like. You don't look at all like your NFT on Twitter.
No, not at all. I've been glancing at badges, but this is a first for me. This is my first ShopTalk. So I guess I'm starting at the top here.
Yeah.
It's really great. There's so many brands, so many people, everybody just really pulling. It's going to be a big year this year.
Yeah,
everyone's excited.
There's a huge amount of energy here. It's like everybody has been dying to get back together, see everybody they haven't seen for 2 years in this industry. And it shows. It shows that I don't think there's been another show yet for retail that's been able to do that.
No, I mean, we started off in day one. The vibe was electric. We literally with electric bands and presentations, and we got Flow Rider here, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I know Fabric's doing a big party tonight.
Yep, there's that too. Lots of, I think every night there's so many things you can't keep track of how many different activities there are.
No, I mean, I'm pretty impressed so far.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the sessions so far. This is, I guess, I'm going to call it day one. Maybe we should call it day 1.5. It was like a half day yesterday, I guess.
Unknowingly, it was a half day.
Yeah.
I arrived quite early.
See, and I arrived late, so I missed part of yesterday. That was kind of unfortunate.
You missed a lot of waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people did you say there were?
A couple breakfasts, a couple lunches. It's like, oh, my bad.
Right. Exactly.
It starts at what time?
Yeah. So I did manage to hit a couple of the keynote sessions yesterday. So there was some good experiences given out by Kath McClay, the CEO at Sam's Club, on their pandemic experience and how they started changing how they think about customers.
Yeah, I mean, that was it was nice to see the opening with just 3 amazing women opening up that stage for conversation.
Yeah.
I spent my morning over at the Shark Reef.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of great startups. It's so nice to actually just be around the pitch competition where everybody's a retail tech startup.
Yep.
It's so exciting. There's so much going on. There's so much innovation happening. And all of the pitches were really well.
Very cool. And then I think just finishing now by the time we're recording, I think there was a whole series of metaverse related keynotes going on, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe everybody will know what an NFT is and what the metaverse might do by tomorrow, by the end of the week.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think brands and techies might just have been able to cross the chasm here.
Yeah, definitely.
The Super Bowl QR code was not lost. It's alive and well here.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. Yeah.
So some of the tracks we've got: developing tomorrow's retail, innovating growth opportunities, global shopping experiences. Love hearing that, global shopping experiences. And the Shark Reef startup pitch. So, I mean, these are the way that they're kind of running the day based off the theme and
Yeah.
then going down with new speakers. I think it's really great just being able to really dive into these themes because all the brands seem to be aligned on key initiatives.
Yeah. Everybody seems really focused.
It's really focused and just all about the technologies and customer experience, and everybody's really just ready to go outside of their box and learn. I think that's the biggest thing is so many meetings about, tell me about what you do.
Yeah.
How
That's
do you
right.
do it?
Right.
It's
Right. Everybody's genuinely interested. There's a lot of focus. Everybody wants to learn more, and everyone's just so excited to see each other. It's just,
there must
it's
be a
like,
budget laying
yeah.
around.
I know that's right.
People
That's
got
right.
money
Yeah.
to
Someone's got
spend.
money to spend. Exactly. Exactly. It's a good, if you're at this show, then you're coming away thinking it's a good time to be in retail tech.
By golly, it took long enough. Katya Walsh from Levi's, they had a great talk yesterday on attracting and developing, retaining top digital talent. Where's Ron when you need him?
Yeah. Shout out to Ron.
But yeah, there was a lot of people that were coming out of that just feeling really invigorated and excited.
Yeah, what else? What other cool sessions have you been to so far?
We've gotten pulled out of a lot of sessions for meetings. Today is really going to be focused on sessions. And tomorrow, the first day, I was just so excited to leave my apartment.
Yeah, I've been hearing that a lot from everybody. Everyone I run into. It's so good to be away.
Yeah, I wanted to meet as many people as I could. I made so many new friends on Twitter over the last 2 years, and
Yeah.
then from Clubhouse, where these conversations started.
Yep.
I've got a whole crew of like new BFFs.
And they're all here.
Yeah, and it's just been
Everybody's
really
here. That's
great
amazing.
just being able to spend time to actually talk to people and socialize
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than, I got 30 minutes for a Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing like real life,
And it's like standing room only. Like you want to meet with someone around here, there's no space. So you got to find like where's the empty space that you can kind of huddle around to meet with whoever you want to meet it with in the next minute.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I'll meet you in the corner of here and there. We'll just sit on the floor. It's good.
Yeah. And then I got to say, about half the people that I've met with, every conversation starts with, I feel like I don't remember how to do a conference anymore. I'm so lost. I've had a dozen people say to me, I forgot how far away everything is in Las Vegas. You think it's right across the street, and that's not a 5-minute walk.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, you want to meet in which room in the convention center? Oh, that's just down the hall, except that the hall is, 1,000 feet long.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be right there.
Later.
It's like 10, 15
Yeah,
minutes.
10
My
minutes
bad.
later. Yeah, exactly. So let's see.
Wish they were pumping the oxygen this way.
Yeah. Let's see what other trends. I'm hearing people talk about sustainability again. I'm hearing more and more talk on retail media, which was one of our predictions for the year. I understand there was an Instacart session. They talked a lot about retail media advertising on their platform. That makes sense. You'd expect that.
Yeah, getting much more targeted. A lot of people want to diversify from the Facebook, Instagram ad models and find some new channels to really reach their customers and build on. A lot is getting lost in those customer acquisition costs and really being able to actually acquire customers.
Right.
Everybody's on the same platform. So people are getting really creative, super creative. I am super impressed too to see there's a lot of Silicon Valley here.
Yeah.
I
noticed.
I was blown away. I'm walking by, I'm like, wait, what? Intermission World just took the whole set. Okay. They're on almost
get your
every
pitch ready.
panel. There's somebody
Yeah.
almost on every panel from Silicon Valley, which is
pretty amazing.
really, that means, everybody knows that this is going to be the next 24 months in retail is going to be a big deal.
Yep.
And we'll get to see how all of this kind of shakes out. And what the customers think.
Right.
In what, 2024? So this is all for 2025 right now.
Yeah.
It's all for 2025.
Yeah. And then as usual for a ShopTalk, a lot of big brands on stage besides Sam's Club in the opening. I think there was Macy's and Target today. A lot of big names talking about what their vision of the future of commerce. I haven't walked the show floor yet.
I mean,
but
it just
I know there's
across the gamut.
so
I
many.
mean, going from Ralph Lauren to Albertsons.
Yeah.
It
And
is
everything in
just-
between. And if there's one phrase that almost every single session repeats, it has to be meeting our customer where they are, being able to let them transact any way they want, anywhere they want. I mean, there's like one theme that's hitting every single session. Everybody's
a lot
at
more
that talk track.
about enablement.
Yes.
A lot more
Yeah.
about enablement rather than necessarily building the solution. It's all about how you connect with other solutions.
Right. Right.
So a lot of API builds here coming up, and just a really big rise in headless. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
really walk through here
Yeah.
without all the walls talking about headless commerce. But I think there's going to be a lot of interesting changes here going in with some replatforming to be able to have that flexibility to connect to all of these new emerging technologies.
Yep. Absolutely. That is a big theme. And
Really shaking it up.
I'm looking forward to walking through the show floor and checking out all these different companies that are doing just that. If I gauge just by what I see, all the photos I see from the show floor being posted on social, it's like every other one is something related to headless commerce.
Yeah. I mean, Fabric's doing a killer job right now.
Yeah.
Commerce tools. It's getting really interesting. I mean, I know a lot of brands right now that have a lot of headless commerce projects in the works, which just opens up so much flexibility for being able to deploy new innovation, getting off of some of these proprietary systems.
Yeah. And then I'll have to come back to Metaverse again, because there's so many sessions today on that. I have a feeling that as soon as we leave this recording, all we're going to hear people talking about in the hallways is which brand did what in a Metaverse experiment so far this year.
Yeah, you either see a smile or like some eyes rolling.
Right. Yeah. It's like one extreme or the other, right? There's no in between. Everybody's either on the one extreme of, I got to try more, or they're on the other side rolling their eyes thinking, why are you even doing that?
Yeah.
What do you hope to get from that?
Yeah.
How are you making money from that?
But this is where we find the utility, right? Is being able
Well,
to
you
have
gotta
everybody in a
experiment, right?
room.
It's just like when we did our predictions episode, right? If you're not experimenting, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, you're not going to get anywhere.
Well, if you're not experimenting, the learning process is not fun. It's a lot of complicated reading. Just learn as you go and experiment. It's much more fun to learn by trying and just, go buy an NFT, go get some Oculus goggles, join Discord.
Yeah. Yeah. Sign on to Roblox.
Right. But it's definitely the theme. I just hope that it doesn't turn into just this marketing puff.
Right.
Where we do things, everybody's talking about it, but then at the end of the day, nobody executes against the plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all falls apart.
And we talked about it, but nobody did anything.
Right.
So I'm really hoping that this really fuels that conversation into the future and really looking at all the priorities that these companies have. Because I think we're coming into the beginning of April, and a lot of projects have already been tested out for the entire rest of the year.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're trying to get into a company to implement technology, or trying to get a new piece of software approved, a lot's already been allocated.
Yeah.
A lot's already been allocated. So if anything, if there's a big takeaway here, hopefully there's some slush funds that are created just for innovation on the fly, because everything's changing so fast.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
This quarter.
But the key is to keep experimenting and trying it. The other thing that I've noticed too, more people talking about that, this wasn't true, not even just a few years ago, is the idea of sharing the knowledge and collaborating with others that you might have thought, oh, I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing because it's my competitive advantage, to a shift where, well, that's not your competitive advantage, right? The fact that you're thinking about doing these things and experimenting, that's not your advantage. Your advantage is going to come when you actually get it done, and how you do it and how well you execute it. That's going to give you your advantage. But if somebody else learns along the way, it's one of those rising tides lift all boats, right? So if everybody in the industry starts doing it correctly in a meaningful way, then more and more consumers get interested in this, and then everybody wins.
This is one of those things.
It's not a zero-sum game, right?
No, this is the more people that kind of come together and start doing the same thing, the stronger the whole entire initiative is going to be, rather than keeping things so tight.
Right. Yeah. I think that's something I don't remember seeing at past shows pre-pandemic. So I'm wondering if there's
typically not even in culture, period.
No, it wasn't. So I think that's a new takeaway that's coming from this. And I kind of feel like a lot of it has to do with everybody, everyone in this industry has been around in so many ways. People know people. which sounds silly to say, but it's so true, right? That's why everybody, you see this happening, right? In every hallway at the show, people just running into each other. I haven't seen you in 2 years. And I think that's just caused everybody to want to share.
Yeah. I mean, what have you been up to?
Exactly.
Being able to take those conversations into just not what the agenda was for a call.
Yeah.
And just kind of speak freely, and things that you're excited about, or things that you've been learning about, or what you've been doing on the side. A lot of this stuff, we've had a lot of extra time to pick up new hobbies and new interests, and a lot of that.
Right.
I don't know any retail person that really has a life outside of retail. What is it? Eat, sleep. Like, we breathe retail, drip the brand,
right.
brand DNA, right? So, I mean, there's just so much that there's been so many books that have been written during the pandemic.
Right.
There's been so many perspectives that have been shared,
Yeah.
and just kind of going down rabbit holes. So I'm super excited for the rest of the week on this. I think we'll probably have some good takeaway notes to kind of add on here.
Yeah. We're going to have to do a follow-up show on how the rest of Shop Talk went.
Yeah.
After this one.
Because the big thing, are we coming back? Well, I know you are. But this is a show that I would not have normally have come to.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning at all. I bought a ticket on Thursday and flew out Saturday.
Very last minute.
So many people that were going to be
you couldn't
here.
pass it up.
No, I'm like,
you had to take the opportunity, right?
All right, let's go check out this Shop Talk.
Yeah. Well, it was my first one too, but so I wasn't sure what to expect, but it definitely is well worth the vibe.
Yeah, they really brought the energy here, knowing that it was going to be a lot of people's first time back out.
Right. And everybody wanted to be back. So
yeah, there's some good entertainment. There's some good design. They put a lot of effort into keeping the energy level high, especially in such a big space.
That's a good point. Although I think if my one suggested tip for them, so anybody listening from the event, because I'm sure they're all listening to every single word we're saying, but my big tip is more meeting spaces for just impromptu, nice little seating areas, just for when you have those moments when you run into somebody in the hallway, you don't have to just stand around in the middle of the floor chatting away, have some place to sit somewhere. I mean, come on.
Yeah, because it has. Okay, let's meet all the way on the other side.
Yeah, it takes 10 minutes to walk down that hallway.
We'll meet there in a half an hour,
Yeah.
because it is that, I forgot, like, a guy here, and I was just like, oh yeah, this is like bigger than a New York Avenue.
Yeah. Exactly.
A Las Vegas block is bigger than a New York
Bigger
Avenue.
than anything. Yeah.
So what is on your schedule for the rest of today?
I got to
Anything you're
try to
looking
check
forward
out
to?
some. Yeah, I got some sessions I'm going to try to check out. I've got fun things going on, doing some other interesting video recordings with some other fellow friends that haven't seen in 2 years, so that'll be cool. And I don't know, we'll see what comes from that. I'm looking forward to sessions because there are a lot of different topics. Once we get past the metaverse plot that's going on now, there's some things on like data. There's interesting to see if there's a few sessions on future of work and how frontline worker conditions are changing. I think those would be interesting. And I think there's some really cool keynote ones left with some interesting brands.
Yeah, I'm going to head over to cultivating customer relationships. I've got the chief data officer over at Poshmark and the information officer from Maui Gym, and then experience design with Best Buy, which I just find completely foreign for cultivating customer relationships. So NEA is going to be there as an interviewer. So this is going to I find this really interesting, because when you think of Poshmark, I don't think of customer service or relationship I fall in love with my Poshers.
Right.
That they gift wrap my purchase. They send me these beautiful little handwritten notes. I'm like, come on, like, frankly, shopping on Poshmark is so much sweeter and kinder than ordering online. They put little confetti in my box.
Yeah. That makes me feel good.
So I'm really excited to kind of dig into that, because I only look at it from, such a tight perspective. So this for me is really about opening up my mind to kind of see what everybody else is doing, since I have such tunnel vision in general.
It's called focus. We call that focus, Casey.
Got it. That's right. Focus. Focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Bring the marketing speak out.
I thought I was focused in until I saw all of this. I'm like, wow, you guys are all over the place. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think there's a couple looking forward to on some interesting new innovative tech to do. So hope to get through those.
A lot with checkout. There's a lot of stuff happening with checkout.
Yeah.
You get to pick how you want to check out 5 different ways.
A lot of focus on that. Yep.
It's kind of interesting.
All about making it a frictionless experience.
Yep. So let's get back out on the floor.
All right. Then we'll wrap up here. And we're going to plan on circling back after the show at some point, see what the rest of the week plays out for us.
Yeah, we'll have a full good recap of what you missed,
Everything we liked, anything we didn't.
what you need to Google.
Exactly, yeah. What to look up, who to talk to, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we will call this one a wrap. And we're back. That was the first part of our special Shop Talk recap episode, which we recorded live on the Callin app about halfway through the event. Hopefully you are ready to jump straight into the second half of the great retail reunion so we can give you the rest of the juicy story. Let's listen to part 2 of our Shop Talk 2022 recap, also recorded in the Callin app. Hey, Casey.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. We are back on Callin. How cool is that?
I like it.
All right. So when we were last on here, we did our live day 1.5, I think I called it, session from Shop Talk, where we talked about what we saw on the first day and on like what were we about halfway through the second day? Although the first day was only a half day, right?
Unexpectedly, yes.
Unexpectedly, yeah. Unexpectedly, we did both note that it was unexpectedly a half day. So now we're back to do our whole recap summary of the entire event and kind of run through all the big themes that we saw there. And there were quite a few, I think. I'm going to say like the biggest one that sort of surprised me, but maybe shouldn't have, is this whole idea that it seemed like every session couldn't stop talking about how stores are, quote, back. Or as I like to say, as if they ever really went away, because they never really did go away. But everybody seemed to act like, oh, brick and mortar is coming back.
Yeah, stores weren't closed in a lot of locations for too long. So it is a little bit surprising to hear stores are back. Maybe there has been this huge focus for e-commerce.
Yeah, and I guess maybe for Shop Talk, that's especially true, right? With a lot of digitally native vertical brands starting out online, a lot of founders always presenting at Shop Talk about the cool new products they're bringing to market. So I guess if I think about it in those terms, yeah, it might be a little strange to see people talking about stores coming back, but there were more and more founders and DTCs getting up on stage talking about how you just can't grow past a certain point. Like I heard at least one mention how, if you want to get past 100 million, you got to start opening stores. You just can't do it because the customer acquisition costs are too high.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people putting plans open to open up stores, more pop-up shops. We did lose some stores, but I think, we're still working on that right set of what's the right amount of stores and where should they be.
Yeah, that's true.
With a lot of underperforming locations in general.
Yeah, it is all about the location and getting the right spot.
Yeah, got to know where that customer is.
And I think we've seen it proven out time after time that anytime one of these direct-to-consumer brands opens a store, their e-commerce sales actually go up in the surrounding zip codes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that online browsing, it drives that in-store experience. I found more opportunity in looking online so that I can go into the store and see what inventory is there. But I do have to say, it's been increasingly difficult because that's not an option that I personally even used to use. But now it seems to be that I need to check to see what's in the store because so much inventory is light.
That's right. Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, well, if I go there, are you going to have what I just saw online? So I think there's going to be a lot of tech going back into brick and mortar, new budgets. Let's hope that brick and mortar stores are back means that they also have budgets.
If I judge from the general sense I got at the show, it's 100% true.
Yeah.
And we talked about that right in our prediction show at the beginning of the year, that there was going to be more investment in stores, that stores were going to go strong, that that investment level was going up, the IT spend was going up. I think if anything, I come away from Shop Talk thinking that our prediction is going to hold true.
I agree. I've never seen so many people happy and reinvigorated about their careers. And like we do have an opportunity in this, the best industry right now. I feel there's going to be so much change, so much excitement.
Yeah,
and
I
everybody
agree.
is just really excited to talk with each other, to collaborate and to learn.
Yeah. I mean, when you had sessions like the Sam's Club CEO, Kath McClay, when she talked about all the interesting convenience shopping features that they introduced over the last 2 years and the impact that had, not just on their shopping experience, but just what business impact that had and how people started to spend more, how they served customers, and things that everybody has talked about this for a while, right? Things like scan and go checkout. They had an interesting concept of scan and ship from the store for things when they're out of stock. You can just scan it and have it shipped to you on the spot. It really kind of reaffirmed, and I heard this not just in that session, but in other ones, that if you're not embracing everyone's favorite word to hate in retail, and that's omnichannel, if you're not a brand that's doing that, then you're completely missing out, right? You're not going to grow your relationship with those customers. And that's why so many of those digitally native brands kept getting on stage talking about how many stores they were going to open up.
Yeah, and it's very interesting when you take the DNVB and the information they're looking at when they're opening up a store compared to a traditional retailer when they're looking at where's my customer who's going to engage in store versus an online. DNVBs have a very much broader detail on their customer base just because they've collected so much more of that direct to consumer data and had those relationships online. So it
Yeah,
will be
absolutely.
interesting when some of these locations open up. It'll be interesting to see where everybody puts themselves and what communities, what towns, because it's not going to necessarily be the largest.
You're right. They are going to be super smart about where they put these just based on the data they've got about their existing customer base. And I think this whole expansion of them into more into this omni-channel mode just kind of, for me, reaffirms that whether you love or hate the term, the idea around it really is just a synonym for how consumers want to shop, period. End of statement, right? It's just that everybody now realizes that there's almost wasn't a point thinking about individual sales channels because that's not how people shop. Right? People have completely adopted this mode of whether I'm in a digital channel or I'm in a store, I'm blending them every single moment I'm shopping with a brand. I'm blending all of these channels, and that's how I expect to shop, period.
Yeah.
And that's what every brand has to accept and embrace now.
So, Ricardo, are we saying that omnichannel is coming back into conversation and we might just figure it out this year?
Yeah, I think anybody who hasn't figured it out yet is definitely going to figure it out. Whether or not they want to call it omnichannel, I think there's still plenty of people that hate calling it omnichannel as a term. And I'll admit that I go back and forth on that one. I would almost prefer to just think of it as pure commerce, right? It's the normal mode of operation. It's not a special thing anymore. It's just the way we all shop.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. IKEA also put a lot of new tech into their digitization strategy for stores with click and collect and doing that customer journey using a lot more technology tools inside of their locations.
Let's expand a little on that because there were, as much as we just said, it's not about the channel, it's about the customer. But let's for a moment think about channels. There were a lot of interesting new channels being talked about at ShopTalk. One was live streaming, which again was another one of our top 10 predictions.
Favorite?
Yep, that's right. I saw a cool demonstration in one session on startup giving you a way to integrate live streaming in all of your other channels. So, for example, whether it's your mobile app or your website, and so you have some live streams going, when someone gets to a product page on a product that's tied to a live stream, you can insert the live stream right then and there, right? So you don't have to add an extra step for the consumer to pop into that live stream and see what's going on. So I thought that was an interesting approach. There was a lot of talk that live streaming is huge in China and throughout Asia.
Yeah,
The big question is it going to work the same in Western countries? I'm thinking that it's not. But
no.
I'm not going to say that it isn't going to work. I absolutely think it will, but I think it's going to be different.
It's going to have to be different.
Yeah,
Uh,
because people shop differently, people look at this technology differently in Western countries in that sense, and it's not that one is better or more right or more wrong. It's just that it's just different, and everybody has to adapt to it. The one thing I heard that I was most excited for live streaming, I think you and I talked about this in our predictions episode, was the idea of using your store associates to run your live streams.
yeah.
And I think you and I have talked about that with our friend Ron. And I actually heard that mentioned on stage about how there is an expectation that maybe that's going to be the way it goes, which for me is a little different than what we see happening in Asia. I like this term that we've talked about before, the sort of the engineered influencer, when a retail brand creates their own influencer by using their store associates for that.
Yeah, I'm obviously a big fan of that. I also do, though, see the value in having the studios. I see a lot more studios popping up. I see more people, more brands creating a dedicated space for live streaming and setting up that area specifically for live streaming and getting that personality that is kind of like the face of the brand that they're pulling in for those. I do think it's a different talent than being a salesperson on the floor, but I like the direction either way.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see a mix of the two, right? Where
Yeah,
depending on this, maybe the size of the retailer, whether you build out these studios or whether you do something else more smaller scale. But I think we're going to see both of those happening from large and small retailers.
agree. And just kind of taking control on bringing that to their own website rather than relying on the TikTok or the Instagram live or even some of these Amazon lives, right? There's a lot of third parties where they've already built quite an audience, but most of the tech that I saw was about bringing that live stream conversation and event onto the brand's website and owning that
Yeah.
engagement
Yeah.
on the site where they can convert.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's big. That's big.
I mean, still not saying that they're going to stop using the other channels, but I just saw a lot of an emphasis of bringing these e-commerce stores to life.
Yeah, I agree. And on that note, one of my other favorite topics that kept coming up were retail media networks. At a lot of Shop Talk sessions, especially any session that had one of the local delivery guys, whether it was the Uber CEO or Instacart CEO or somebody from DoorDash. I mean, they were all talking about converting their delivery service into more of a marketplace where some of them even admitted, right, that the delivery part of the business is probably no better than a break-even business, but where they're really going to get their revenue in the future is from advertising. Because like any other marketplace, you've got to sell advertising on it to the brands to get customers to notice. Uh, so again, another one of our predictions from the beginning of the year, right? This was another popular one. Obviously, Amazon's killing it. Walmart and Target aren't doing too bad on that. Kroger is crushing it with their media network. Everybody wants to get in on this. I don't know. What do you think on that one, Casey?
Well, it's not a space where, you're printing cash, you're burning it. And so these last mile
Yeah.
and these delivery services, like they have been wonderful over the last 2 years. It's exposed customer bases that have never even thought that they would ever order their groceries online or have something delivered. Those services are getting pushed back because it just hasn't been as profitable. It's not a big money maker, but they got the customers and
Right.
they built their brands. They've made it onto the front of hundreds of thousands of consumers' phones. Their app is now on the front because we have relied on it for the last couple of years. And so they're finding new ways to be able to monetize and move with those customers, and hopefully something that just makes them a little bit more profit, because a lot of these services are pushing back in certain areas.
Yeah, totally true. So that one to me is an interesting one. I'm looking forward to watching how that develops across the board with the media networks and with all these delivery guys. We're already starting to see some shakeout of that, which again, another topic we had in our top 10, right, was that there was going to be some consolidation or some sort of shakeout in that space. And we see that happening.
Forgive me, I don't recall, but some of these multi-brand retailers are launching retail media networks
Yeah.
and focusing on media, which
Hmm.
I found very interesting.
Yeah.
That rather than being that distribution point and that stock point for the customers to be able to come in and shop across multiple brands in our traditional retail model, they've launched their own retail media network and charging
Right.
brands
Yeah.
for the content.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see what some of these DMVB brands that have come up, right, who are used to spending all of their marketing and customer acquisition on like Facebook and Instagram, places like that. And now suddenly, if they start going into wholesale agreements with other retailers who have their own marketplace, guess what? They're going to be buying advertising space from the retailers.
Yeah,
So that's going to be an interesting one to see what that does to their cost model.
I 100% agree.
Okay, so
And is it going
we
to
have
work?
to talk about the metaverse because it kind of felt like on the second day, it's like every other session at Shop Talk was about metaverse.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me because there are at least I can think of at least one, but there were a bunch of our friendly retail expert friends who were kind of getting tired of hearing so much about the metaverse that they felt like metaverse doesn't seem to exist outside of retail conferences.
Oh, you got that too?
I heard that too. Yeah, I
They
know,
mentioned something about the metaverse and like If
Yeah.
I hear that word one more time, where he's like, I'm going to be done with the word by the time I leave.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, just rolling of eyes. I mean, you
hmm
could really see who
Yeah.
was kind of rolling their eyes. And then at the same time, whose eyes wanted to pop out because they were so excited.
Yeah. It's like you had two extremes at the show. You had everybody who could not wait to jump up on stage and show off what they want to do in the metaverse. And then you had the other half of the people rolling their eyes saying, oh, no, not another metaverse session. Come
Like, this
on.
isn't a
This is
business.
not real.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It's like, well, we know who's on Twitter, don't we?
yeah, that's right. That's right. And
I'm not
and I had and
following you
one
on Twitter.
of my favorite comments on that is and I can't remember now who said it first, but it was said a bunch of times is, for as much as people are getting up on stage talking about how stores are back, if they weren't talking about how stores are back, they were talking about the metaverse. And it's like we've got these two extremes. Either everybody's going back to stores or everybody's going to jump into the metaverse and do their shopping there.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, people want to be together again.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But
Everybody
I'm
make it
still going to
work.
say, though, if you're a brand, that's not a reason to stop doing whatever your experiment you're doing on the metaverse. That this is still the year where you should be trying things out, testing the waters, see what your customers are going to accept, what they like, what they don't like, and just figure out what you might do in the future. This isn't the year where you're going to make a lot of top line revenue out of the metaverse and whatever presence you have. It's the year where you're just going to experiment and try things and see what you're going to invest in later.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, we haven't had something this fun and creative to talk about for, probably most of the history. Since we had e-commerce. The metaverse brings a new life and a new energy to the space in general. So it has to be exciting to talk about. We have traditionally, it's been very much supply chain. Supply chain is not the sexiest industry and conversation. There's not a lot of
Yeah,
creativity. There's definitely no fluorescent green or neon lights when we're dealing with
right.
supply
That's true.
chain. We've
Yeah,
got a lot of
yeah,
barcodes. So I think it's going to be really interesting how this kind of merges into these conversations, into these budgets. To be a fly on the wall in 2022 at a brand, I'm slightly missing that opportunity to be able to hear these conversations as they happen.
right, right. Yeah, and one of the interesting supply chain conversations I heard a lot of, which I was pleased to see, is this sort of acceptance that you can't look at your supply chain as a cost center anymore, but it's really more of a differentiated asset for your business, just given all of the challenges that are still out there in the supply chain around the world, that we haven't solved all those problems in the last couple of years. There's still issues there. And that, to me, kind of led to some more discussions around just profitability in general, right? We used to go to these shows and just listen to speaker after speaker talk about this new disruptive thing they were doing and all these VC money that was pouring in to help prop everybody up and fund them to try to get growth really fast. But nobody ever worried about profitability. And now it seems like maybe it's because people are something to worry about, inflation and some of these other supply chain issues. But now there's a little bit more of a thought as to, well, when are these things going to turn profitable?
Yeah. Just for the presence of venture capitalists at ShopTalk, it was big. And so really seeing how they've made a lot of investments in direct to consumer. So I find it very intriguing of their attendance, and then also getting so much on supply chain and physical stores, because traditionally that's just not really been where their money's been spent. But I think that everybody kind of realizes that that's where the budgets are going to go. That's where the investment's going to go. And that's what's going to set apart winners from losers over the next few years.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you almost kind of have to say after watching all the VCs that were there, but it turns out that shockingly, these VCs actually want to make a return on their money. They don't just want to give it to everybody.
I think there's been some hard lessons in the space. And then also with the pandemic,
Yeah.
Digital's definitely risen, but it's about next steps.
Right. What
And
are
it kind of
those
goes
next
back
steps? Yeah.
to
Yeah. It
goes
can't
back
just be more of the same.
Sam's Club,
Right.
or
Exactly. Yeah.
opening up more stores
That's right.
and
And
getting that growth.
yeah. And then another topic that kind of related to that I started hearing more about, that I think it's sort of taken a back seat the last couple of years, and that was sustainability. Consumers still care about sustainability. I've seen some numbers lately. One study said 84% of consumers still say that sustainability is important to them when they're making a purchase decision. I saw another report that 60% of consumers are willing to change their shopping behavior if they believe that change will reduce environmental impact. And this one kind of surprised me. That same study that I saw had a number of like 66, 67% people say they were willing to pay more for a brand that demonstrates real sustainable practices. And that's the big fact, right? There at conferences pre-pandemic, people were talking about sustainability. I mean, you couldn't find a brand or retailer that was going to say, "Oh no, I'm not worried about that." Everybody was worried about it. Everybody said they were doing something, but at the end of the day, how many were really doing something tangible?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more going into packaging. The marketing content is much more focused in that area. It's really going to come down to like proof in the pudding, in the
Right.
coming year of how much you've actually executed against. But I find it very interesting as the economy shifts, sustainability conversations go up and down. We tried to do this in 2007 with organic lines, more sustainability. We tried to do it. And the economy went down and the sustainability companies and the organic apparel companies closed their doors. So I hope that this time it's here to stay. And I think it's here to stay. Consumers are ready for it and they're willing to change their behavior to take hold of it. We've also had a lot of negative press over the last 2 years about the impact of our industry, because I do have to say, like, the fashion industry is part of the problem.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So that probably could have gotten even more attention at Shop Talk. I think I heard more hallway discussion around that maybe than actual speaking sessions, but it did come up. The last thing I guess worth mentioning, you just touched on it, the economy, that we've had these essentially for a lot of retailers, 2 booming years of sales and revenue and profitability. So the retailers that went into the pandemic with the right technology investments and the right operational structures, they won, right? They came out as winners. Everybody else, maybe not so much. And they hopefully learned some lessons over the last couple of years on where they need to improve and what they need to do. But so now that leaves for me 2 big questions, which I sort of heard rumblings about at the show. One being, how do you comp against those last 2 years if you were one of those spectacular retailers? Can you still eke out another year of spectacular growth, or do you expect it to level off? And if you were not one of those winners, do you recover now? What are you going to do? How are you catching up to the winners and recover from that? And in both of those cases, is the economy and is inflation going to be something that challenges you? You've got some other unknown factors with consumer spending around people wanting to buy less stuff now because we can all go out again. So people want more experiences. Travel's probably going to come back more. People are going back to restaurants, and it's all the same pile of money at the end of the day, so to speak. So what if consumers over the last 2 years shifted their spend to stuff and now it goes back to services and experiences, then, well, if you're one of those brands selling stuff, you might not sell as much.
Yeah, that's going to be it's going to be really interesting on consumer behavior coming out of the pandemic. I mean, I myself have made some dramatic differences in my shopping behavior and even how I want to spend my money. And I'm not a typical consumer. We know too much, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Actually, but we're dangerous that way as consumers, but
So I think it's going to be interesting because what are you comping? Because so much happened during the pandemic with consumer behavior, and some of it was forced. Some of it was a natural progression. Some of it was introspect. So when it comes down to comping, we're looking at 2019, we're looking at 2021, but we're really going to be building these projections kind of fresh. And there's going to be a little bit of instability on meeting those goals because we're going to be learning. They're going to be learning so much every quarter this year of what's real and what's stuck and what does the future look like.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So that's going to be really interesting to see when all of these brands and retailers start doing their quarterly reports, what their forward-looking statements are going to be. I think that's going to be the most telling thing of what we learn from them. So any last thoughts that stood out to you, Casey, before we close this out?
Well, I've some last thoughts. I found that the convention hall was buzzing, which I find rare at trade shows. It's not used. The energy isn't typically convention hall, but I found it to be very different. It's my first experience at Shop Talk. I had a great one. And everything was buzzing. Everybody wanted to talk and learn. And I heard some great questions and people just really digging in and open to the idea of selecting new vendors. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, you're right. The excitement level was high and everybody came away from the show feeling just as excited about their retail and retail tech future.
I mean, how lucky are we?
Yeah. If anything, Shop Talk convinced anybody that went, this is a great industry to be in. And for most people, like reaffirm that not only is it a great industry to be in, but that you're probably really happy to be in it.
Yep.
And that's a good thing.
I agree.
All right. Well, with that, I think we are going to wrap up our great retail reunion shop talk recap on Callin.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope that you enjoyed our fun recap of retail's big reunion.
Well, I know I did. I hope we captured the energy from the show last week, Casey. I know it's been, like 2 years since most people in retail had been to a major conference, but it really did feel like a reunion.
New friends, old. ShopTalk was the place to be and the hottest industry for doers. Retail's driving change with even the most unsuspected players.
Yeah, you are absolutely right about that. I think that will pretty much close us out for a special episode of the show. And we hope to see all of our listeners again next time.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Remember to smash that subscribe button in your favorite podcast player so you don't miss a minute. Want to know more about what we talked about? Take a look at our show notes for handy links and more deets. I'm your co-host, Casey Golden.
If you'd like to connect with us, follow us on Twitter at KCC and Ricardo_Belmar, or find us on LinkedIn. Be sure and follow the show on Twitter at Retail Razor, on LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel for video versions of each episode and bonus content. I'm your host, Ricardo Belmar.
Thanks for joining us.
And remember, there's never been a better time to be in retail if you cut through the clutter. Until next time, this is the Retail Razor Show.